Let me tell you something, baby. You cannot heal people by letting them step on you. You cannot earn love by being too available. Because when you give yourself away too easily, you teach people that your time, your soul, your presence are free. But oh, they are not. They are sacred. They are the currency of your worth. So stop running every time they call. Stop saying yes when your spirit is screaming no. If they truly value you, they will wait for your peace, not demand your presence. Respect yourself enough to set limits, because if you don't, life and people will drain you until there's nothing left of you but exhaustion and resentment. You see, boundaries are not walls. They're not about keeping people out. They're about keeping your peace in. They're not about selfishness. They're about self-respect. Too many of us confuse being kind with being available. We think being nice means saying yes when our hearts are screaming no. But baby, that's not kindness. That's self-neglect dressed as love. When you don't respect your own limits, people will test how far they can push you. It starts small. Someone asks for a favor you don't have time for. You say yes because you don't want to disappoint them. The next time, they ask for a little more. Soon, you're running around fixing everyone's problems while your own life stands still. And when you finally say no, they call you selfish. But the truth is, you train them to expect your yes. You taught them that your time belongs to them. Setting limits is how you teach the world what you're worth. Think about a luxury item. A diamond doesn't beg anyone to value it. It doesn't lower its price because someone can't afford it. Its worth is fixed because its nature is precious. Now, imagine if that diamond suddenly said, well, I'll shine for free today because I want everyone to like me. Would it still be special? No, it would lose its magic, its dignity, its grace. You are that diamond. And every time you say yes when you mean no, you chip away at your shine. There's a story in every woman's heart about the time she gave too much energy, too much time, too much forgiveness, and received too little in return. She stayed up late answering calls that never came when she needed them. She listened to people cry, but cried alone in silence. That is what happens when you forget your worth in the name of love or loyalty. You can love deeply, but still say, not today. You can be loyal, but still say, this doesn't serve me, because real love doesn't demand your burnout. It respects your boundaries. Imagine your mind like a phone battery. You wouldn't hand it to 10 people to drain at once and then wonder why it dies before noon. Yet we do that emotionally every day. We give and give, answering everyone's needs until our mental battery flashes red. Then we sit in guilt, blaming ourselves for being tired. But even your phone needs to recharge. Why don't you? Because somewhere along the way, you were taught that rest is laziness, that saying no is rude, that your peace is less important than someone's opinion, that teaching is wrong. Boundaries are not cruelty, they are clarity. Think of the people you admire, those who walk with grace and power. They are not available to everyone all the time. They don't rush to every noise that calls their name. They move with intention. They know their peace is a luxury they can't afford to give away carelessly. You cannot rise if you are always reachable. You cannot grow if you are always pulled. Protect your time the way a queen protects her crown. Not because she's arrogant, but because she knows the weight it carries. When you respect yourself enough to set limits, you stop begging for appreciation. You stop waiting for people to see your value. You simply live it. You don't chase validation, you command it. Because your energy shifts when you understand that your boundaries are not barriers, they're invitations. They tell people, if you want access to me, bring respect, bring truth, bring effort. That's not pride, that's power. There will always be people who call you difficult when you begin to protect your peace. But listen carefully, they benefited from your lack of boundaries. Of course, they'll be uncomfortable when you finally stop letting them drain you. They'll miss the version of you that said yes to everything, even when it broke you. Don't shrink to keep their comfort. Every time you choose yourself, you teach others that you are not an option. You are a privilege. Boundaries also show up in small moments. When you decide to turn off your phone after 9 p.m. because you need mental rest, that's self-respect. When you stop engaging in arguments that lead nowhere, that's growth. When you choose to spend your weekend healing instead of people-pleasing, that's maturity. You are teaching your soul that it matters. Even in work, setting limits is crucial. If you stay late every night to prove your worth, the company will take it for granted. But when you work with excellence within your hours and protect your rest after, you show that your productivity doesn't define your humanity. You're not a machine, you're a masterpiece in progress. Look at the sun. It shines for everyone, but not all the time. It sets, it rests, it disappears for a while so the earth can cool, heal, and prepare for another day. Even the universe respects its own rhythm. So why shouldn't you? When you start respecting yourself, something magical happens. The noise around you fades. The people who were using you fall away. The ones who truly love you step closer because they now see your value through your discipline. You begin to feel lighter, stronger, freer. You start saying, I'm not available for chaos, for disrespect, for half love. You stop explaining your boundaries and start living them. There's a peace that comes when you realize you don't owe everyone access to you. You are not a public service. You are a divine being with emotions, energy, and dreams that deserve protection. You have every right to walk away from what drains you, to pause when you need to breathe, to rest without guilt. Respect yourself enough to set limits. And you'll find that the world starts respecting you too, not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. Silence often speaks louder than explanation, because sometimes words only water the weeds of misunderstanding. There are moments in life when no amount of explaining can make someone see your heart, understand your pain, or value your truth. And when that moment comes, silence becomes your shield and your strength. You don't need to fight to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. You don't need to shout your worth to those who refuse to hear it. The calm of your silence holds a power that noise can never match. Have you ever argued with someone who twisted every word you said? No matter how calmly you spoke, they found a way to make you the villain. You left the conversation drained, wondering why you even tried. That's the moment silence becomes your teacher. You realize that peace doesn't come from winning an argument. It comes from walking away knowing who you are. When you stop explaining yourself to people who only listen to respond, not to understand, you reclaim your energy. You rise above the need for approval. You stop performing for an audience that doesn't deserve your truth. Think of it like this. When water is stirred, it becomes cloudy. But when left still, it clears on its own. Your silence is that stillness. It allows clarity to rise without your effort. It shows the difference between those who truly see you and those who only hear your noise. When you step back, people begin to notice what your presence meant. They start to miss the sound of your care, the warmth of your words, the safety of your energy. Silence doesn't mean defeat. It means self-control, emotional maturity, and mastery of self in relationships. Silence often reveals more than confrontation. Suppose you're always the one explaining, defending, apologizing, trying to fix things that keep breaking. The more you talk, the more they stop listening. But the day you go quiet, not with anger, but with calm certainty, something shifts. They begin to wonder, what happened? Why isn't she responding? That's when your silence speaks volumes. It says, I've said all I needed to say. Now I choose peace. It says, and I value my inner calm more than your chaos. That silence carries weight. The weight of dignity, of boundaries, of unspoken wisdom. Even in friendships, silence can reveal truth. The friend who disappears when you stop texting first, when you stop chasing the connection, teaches you something. They were only there when your energy kept the bridge alive. Your silence becomes the test, not as revenge, but as revelation. It separates the real from the temporary. It whispers, "Not on need to beg for loyalty." And those who are meant to stay will meet your silence with effort. At work, silence has its own form of power. When others gossip, rush to defend themselves, or try to outshine you, your calm composure becomes your strength. The loudest in the room are often the most insecure. The quiet ones observe, learn, and strike when it counts. Imagine being in a meeting where chaos fills the air, everyone pushing their opinions. You sit still and grounded, speaking only when necessary, not to compete, but to contribute meaningfully. That silence builds respect. People start to lean in when you do speak because they know your words carry weight. Sometimes silence is your protest. In a world addicted to noise, not reacting becomes rebellion. You don't always need to clap back when insulted, justify when accused, or explain when judged. Your silence in those moments doesn't mean you're weak. It means you've evolved. It means you've learned that not every action deserves a reaction. Not every wound deserves a witness. You rise beyond pettiness and protect your peace like a sacred temple. The most powerful lion doesn't need to roar to prove he's king. His presence commands respect. In family, too, silence teaches lessons words can't. Maybe you have a relative who constantly criticizes your choices, your career, your lifestyle, your dreams. You could spend hours defending yourself, but they'd never really hear you the day you stop explaining and start living. Your truth, your silence becomes your success story. When they see your peace, your growth, your glow, they'll understand what words never could. Sometimes the best response is to let your results speak louder than your explanations ever would. There's also a spiritual kind of silence, the one between you and God, between your thoughts and your soul. It's in that stillness where you hear the whispers of wisdom. When you stop arguing with the world, you start listening to yourself. In those quiet moments, clarity finds you. You realize that the person you were trying so hard to convince was never meant to see your light. You don't lose your worth because someone refuses to recognize it. You just stop offering it where it's unappreciated. Silence doesn't always mean cutting people off. Sometimes it means learning the art of detachment, observing without reacting, feeling without exploding, knowing without revealing. It's when you smile at someone who tried to provoke you and say nothing, because deep down you've outgrown the need to prove yourself. That moment, that grace, that calm, that's real power. Think of nature. The stars don't announce when they appear. The moon doesn't argue with the darkness. The flowers don't shout, "Look at me." They simply bloom in silence, and the world takes notice. The ocean doesn't scream, yet its depth humbles everyone who stands before it. That's the beauty of silence. It's soft, but strong, quiet, but commanding. People often think silence is empty, but it's full of wisdom, strength, restraint, and understanding. It's the mark of someone who has learned that not all energy deserves engagement. You can't reason with arrogance. You can't heal ignorance with words, and you can't pour light into a heart that's closed, but you can protect your spirit by walking in silence. It's not about being cold. It's about being centered. Sometimes the loudest way to say, I had enough, is to say nothing at all. Sometimes the greatest way to show growth is to choose peace over proving a point. The people who once misunderstood your silence will one day remember it as the moment they lost access to your energy, and you will realize that every unspoken word became a brick in the foundation of your power. Don't mistake attention for affection, because the world is full of people who know how to look at you, but very few who truly wise see you. Attention is easy, it's temporary, impulsive, and often selfish. It comes from curiosity, not care. But affection, real affection, is deep, quiet, and consistent. It doesn't demand to be noticed, it chooses to stay. So many hearts get broken, not because love failed, but because attention was misread as love. You were dazzled by the spotlight and forgot to check who was holding the switch. Attention can feel intoxicating. When someone texts you every morning, compliments your smile, or makes you laugh for a few weeks, it feels special. But attention has a pattern. It's loud at the start and silent at the end. Affection, on the other hand, doesn't always come wrapped in excitement. It's not about the good morning text. It's about showing up when things go wrong. It's not about how loud they shout your name in public. It's about how gently they speak your truth in private. Real affection doesn't flirt with your loneliness. It nurtures your peace. Think about social media. You can post a picture and receive hundreds of likes, comments, and hearts. It feels good, like validation, like love. But the moment you stop posting, the noise fades. No one checks in to ask how you're feeling, what you're healing from, what dreams you're chasing. That's because attention disappears when the spotlight moves. Affection doesn't. It's the friend who calls when you're quiet, not the follower who claps when you shine. The world will always give you attention when you perform. Only the real ones give you affection when you pause. In relationships, this truth becomes even more painful. You meet someone who showers you with attention, Constant messages, compliments, promises that sound like poetry. You feel chosen, desired, seen. But when the excitement fades, when you ask for consistency instead of chaos, they vanish. Because attention loves the chase, not the commitment. It thrives on the thrill, not the truth. Affection, though, stays when it's inconvenient. It listens when you're emotional. It holds space when you're distant. It doesn't just want your smile, it wants your soul to feel safe. There's a story that plays out in so many lives. A woman gives her all to someone who only gives her moments. And then he remembers her when he's bored, compliments her when he wants attention, and disappears when she needs reassurance. And she confuses his random calls for care, his sweet words for sincerity. Until one day she realizes he never loved her peace, he loved her availability. His attention was never affection, it was ego looking for entertainment. That moment of realization hurts, but it awakens something powerful, self-respect, because once you know the difference, you stop begging for what's fake. Even in friendships, the same rule applies. Some people will check in only when they need something. They'll remember you when they're lonely or in crisis, and you'll rush to help because you care. But when your world falls apart, silence answers your call. Those people weren't affectionate, they were convenient. They used your kindness as their comfort, not their connection. You don't need an audience of people who clap when life is bright. You need a few souls who sit beside you in your storms without asking you to perform strength. Attention says, I see you right now. Affection says, I choose you even when no one else does. Attention is loud in the beginning and empty in the end. Affection is quiet at first, but steady forever. The mistake people make is confusing excitement for emotion. They think chemistry means connection and constant messages mean commitment. But affection doesn't have to shout. It shows itself through consistency. The person who genuinely cares won't need to impress you. They'll invest in you. In everyday life, you see this difference in small ways. The coworker who flatters you in front of everyone but never supports your ideas in meetings. Attention. The friend who laughs with you at parties but avoids you when you're struggling. Attention. The partner who loves your beauty but ignores your boundaries. Attention. Real affection is different. It's the one who notices your silence in a crowded room, who sends a message not because they're bored, but because they sense your energy shift. It's not glamorous, it's grounding. Sometimes attention is disguised as affection because it arrives when you need it most. When you're lonely, tired, or unsure of yourself, even a little attention feels like a rescue. But don't let temporary comfort cost you long-term peace. Not everyone who reaches for you wants to hold you. They just don't want you to drift too far. That's not love. That's control wrapped in charm. Real affection never cages. It frees. It doesn't confuse you. It calms you. It doesn't make you question your worth. It reminds you of it. Attention is often about ego. It wants to be admired, noticed, desired. Affection is about empathy. It wants you to feel safe, valued, and seen. The person giving attention says, look at me. The one giving affection says, I'm here for you. There's a difference so deep it can only be felt, not explained. That's why silence, time, and distance reveal the truth. When you pull away, attention fades. Affection follows. Attention gets bored. Affection gets concerned. Attention disappears. Affection checks in. Even love from family can sometimes be mistaken. Some people love the version of you that makes them comfortable, not the one that's true. They praise you when you fit their expectations, but criticize you when you grow beyond them. That's not affection, it's conditional attention. Real affection allows you to evolve, to outgrow, to change without punishment. It says, I love you through your seasons, not just when you're in bloom. Every person at some point has to learn this lesson the hard way. You'll think someone's attention means forever, only to find out it meant for now. You'll realize that not everyone who calls you beautiful wants to build with you, and in that realization, you'll grow. Because when you stop chasing attention, you start attracting affection. When you stop falling for charm, you start recognizing character. You start loving yourself enough to wait for depth, not decoration. The truth is, you don't need someone who constantly watches you. You need someone who understands. You don't need an audience. You need a companion, because attention fades when something new walks by. But affection? Affection stays, even when the lights go out, even when life gets hard, even when you have nothing left to give but your truth. And once you know the difference, you'll stop settling for anyone who only claps when you shine. And you'll learn to love those who stay when you're dim. Learn to rest, not chase. Because sometimes the most powerful move you can make in life is to stop running. The world glorifies hustle, celebrates the chase, and worships exhaustion as if being tired is a badge of honor. We've been taught to chase dreams, chase people, chase success, until we forget that peace was the real destination all along. You don't have to chase what's meant for you, you have to align with it. Because when your energy is right, the things meant for you will recognize your calm, not your chaos. Rest is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the art of pausing long enough to let what's yours find its way home. Think of a butterfly. The harder you chase it, the farther it flies. But if you sit still, it may land on your shoulder. That's how life works. The more desperately you chase, the more the universe mirrors your anxiety. You can't chase peace through panic. You can't chase love through fear. You can't chase purpose through burnout. What's meant for you will not require you to beg, run, or break. It will arrive when you've learned how to be still enough to receive it. So many people wake up each day already running, racing after validation, success, relationships, money, or meaning. They scroll through other people's lives, feeling behind like they're not doing enough. But here's the truth. Rushing doesn't bring clarity, it brings confusion. You can't build anything strong while your soul is trembling with pressure. Sometimes sitting still in faith is louder than any movement, because real strength isn't in chasing, it's in trusting the timing of your life. In relationships, this lesson hits deep. You meet someone, and it feels magical. You give, you try, you chase their attention, their approval, their affection. But the more you chase, the more distant they become. You think, maybe if I text first, maybe if I show I care more, maybe if I prove my love. But love doesn't need to be proven, it needs to be respected. The moment you stop chasing, the right people stop running. Because love that's real doesn't flee, it flows. It meets you where peace lives, not where panic grows. There's a kind of rest that's not about sleeping, it's about letting go. It's about releasing the pressure to always be seen, always be doing, always be progressing. Some days you need to rest, not because you're lazy, but because you're wise enough to know that your spirit can't bloom under constant demand. Flowers don't bloom all year long. Even nature knows the value of seasons. The trees rest in winter, not because they're dying, but because they're preparing to bloom again. Why do you think you're any different? Your soul needs the same grace. At work, you see it every day. People running like machines, chasing promotions, chasing deadlines, chasing approval. They think success is a sprint, but it's really a marathon. The ones who learn to rest, recharge, and breathe are the ones who last. Burnout doesn't build empires, it breaks them. The most successful people are not the busiest, they are the most balanced. They know when to move and when to pause. They don't chase every opportunity, they choose wisely. That's what separates exhaustion from excellence. Sometimes the chase isn't for success or love, it's for validation. You keep trying to prove yourself to people who will never see your value. You give explanations to those who don't even deserve your energy. You chase approval like oxygen, forgetting that your worth was never up for negotiation. You don't need to chase to be chosen. You don't need to beg to be believed. When you learn to rest, you start seeing clearly who truly values you and who only valued your effort. Even spiritually, the chase can become a trap. You chase enlightenment, healing, or answers so desperately that you drown in your own searching. But healing happens in stillness. Answers come in quiet. The divine doesn't shout, it whispers. And if you're always running, you'll miss the message. Sometimes you need to stop praying for doors to open and start resting in the hallway, trusting that what's on the other side is already being prepared for you. Rest is faith in action. It says, I've done my part, now I trust the universe to do the rest. In friendships too, rest reveals the truth. When you stop being the one who always reaches out, plans, calls, and checks in, you will see who was genuinely there and who was only staying because you were chasing. Some people only stay because your effort holds them there. When you rest, their silence will speak volumes. But don't see it as loss, it's revelation. You were never meant to chase love, loyalty, or friendship. What's real will never require running after. Rest doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing what restores you. It's reading without rushing. It's walking without a destination. It's turning off your phone and turning on your spirit. It's the moment you say, I don't need to compete today. I just need to connect with myself. When you give yourself permission to rest, you give your dreams room to breathe. Because even your purpose can't thrive under pressure. The mind that never rests will never create anything meaningful. The chase also creates illusions. You start believing that happiness is somewhere ahead. Once I get that job, once I find that partner, once I reach that goal, I'll be happy. But happiness doesn't live in the chase. It lives in the now. It's in the cup of coffee you drink slowly. It's in the sunset you almost missed while scrolling. It's in the breath you take after realizing you survived what once broke you. When you learn to rest, you start to see that the beauty of life was never in the running. It was in the being. There's a reason peace feels rare in a world that praises speed. We've been conditioned to believe that slowing down is falling behind. But rest is not falling behind. It's pulling ahead in silence. The quiet mind moves mountains. The loud mind can't even climb. You don't have to chase every path. Sometimes you just need to stand still and let the right one appear. The universe rewards calm confidence, not desperate energy. You've got to trust that the things meant for you won't forget you. The person, the opportunity, the moment, it's already aligned with your timeline. When you learn to rest, you're not giving up. You're letting go of what's not yours so what is yours can find you. There's a deep kind of power in saying, I'll move when it's time. Until then, I'll rest, I'll prepare, I'll breathe. Because not every delay is denial. Some are divine pauses to help you remember who you are. And when you remember that, you'll realize that rest isn't the opposite of progress. It's part of it. Protect your energy like royalty because not everyone deserves access to your spirit. Think about it. A queen never lets just anyone walk into her palace. She decides who enters, who sits close, and who must stay outside the gates. The same rule applies to your peace, your time, your love, and your attention. When you start giving these precious parts of yourself to everyone who asks, you begin to feel drained, unappreciated, and unseen. Protecting your energy isn't selfish. It's sacred. It's a declaration that says, I know my worth, and I refuse to let anyone steal my light just because they're too dim to shine on their own. There's a story I once heard about a woman who was always there for everyone. The one who picked up the phone at 2 a.m., the one who smiled through exhaustion, who said, I'm fine, even when her soul was breaking. But one day she realized she couldn't pour from an empty cup anymore. She stopped running to fix everything and everyone, and something beautiful happened. She found peace. You see, people start respecting your energy when you start valuing it first. You don't owe the world constant access to your soul. Every time you give your time to gossip, to people who drain you, to situations that don't serve your growth, you're allowing thieves into your palace. You're letting emotional pickpockets steal your peace in exchange for momentary approval. Guard your energy like a royal guard defends the throne. You have to understand your mental and emotional energy is your currency. Spend it wisely. Not every conversation deserves your response. Not every conflict deserves your participation. Not every person deserves your healing power. Think of your life like a phone battery. When you keep all your apps open, notifications buzzing, and brightness at its highest, what happens? The battery dies faster. But when you close the unnecessary apps, silence the noise, and recharge in peace, you last longer. That's how energy works too. You cannot expect to thrive if you're constantly surrounded by chaos. Protecting your energy means knowing when to say no, even when it feels uncomfortable. It means walking away from what confuses your peace. Sometimes people will call you distant, arrogant, or cold for choosing yourself. But remember, even the sun doesn't shine in every direction at once. It sets so it can rise again stronger. You are not obligated to be available to everyone. You are not cold. You are conserving your warmth for what truly matters. A queen doesn't explain why her gates are closed. She knows her value doesn't decrease because someone feels entitled to her presence. There will be people who only come when they need something. Your advice, your time, your comfort, and disappear when you need them. That's the universe testing you. It's whispering, will you keep giving your power to those who drain you? Protecting your energy means recognizing these patterns and choosing peace over pleasing. You must learn that not every battle deserves a warrior like you. Some wars are fought best with silence and distance. You must also understand that your energy influences everything you touch, your work, your relationships, your dreams. When your energy is chaotic, your life becomes chaotic. When your energy is calm and intentional, your path clears. Start your mornings with gratitude instead of scrolling through other people's noise. Surround yourself with those who bring calm, not chaos. If someone constantly leaves you feeling heavy after every conversation, that's not connection, that's depletion. Protect your spirit from it. In your daily life, practice small acts of energy protection. Turn your phone off for an hour. Walk in nature. Listen to music that feeds your soul instead of noise that confuses your mind. Create boundaries that say, I love you, but I also love me. Because protecting your energy doesn't mean cutting people off. It means filtering who and what you allow to touch your inner peace. You don't need to explain why you're not available all the time. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to protect your sacred space without guilt. The truth is, not everyone deserves your softness. Some people see your kindness as a weakness, your availability as a habit, your generosity as something to exploit. Protect your energy like royalty by recognizing that your peace is priceless. The world doesn't need a burnt-out version of you. It needs your radiant, powerful, grounded self. So learn to step back. Let silence speak. Let solitude heal. Protect your mind from negativity, your heart from manipulation, and your soul from those who only take but never give. You are the gatekeeper of your peace. Every time you say no to nonsense, you say yes to self-respect. Every time you protect your energy, you honor your inner crown. And remember, you are not here to be drained. You are here to shine. So guard your light fiercely, because even in a world full of chaos, your calm is your kingdom and your peace is your throne. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when you finally understand peace is the real luxury. It's not diamonds, not cars, not applause, not attention. It's waking up in the morning and knowing your heart is quiet, your energy is clean, and your spirit is free. You don't need to chase love, approval, or validation when you are already the source of your own light. The world will always pull at you, demanding, distracting, draining, but a wise heart learns to stand still in the storm because strength is not in how much noise you can handle. Strength is in how deeply you can protect your silence. Stop apologizing for protecting your peace. Stop feeling guilty for saying no. People who truly love you will never be offended by your boundaries. They'll understand that you're not building walls, you're building sacred gates. The truth is, your peace is your responsibility, your boundaries are your power, and your solitude is your sanctuary. Remember this, the one who walks alone doesn't always walk in loneliness. Sometimes they walk in clarity. Sometimes solitude is not punishment, it's preparation. You were not born to be constantly available, constantly pleasing, constantly explaining. You were born to be powerful, intentional, and divine. The most magnetic people in the world are not the loudest. They are the ones who carry calm in chaos, grace in rejection, and strength in silence. The ones who know that peace is louder than words, that presence is stronger than pursuit, that detachment is the purest form of power. You must rise above the noise of desperation and step into the dignity of peace, because when you stop chasing, the right things start finding you. When you stop overgiving, you start receiving what's meant for you. And when you stop being too available, you make room for the kind of respect that doesn't require begging. Let them miss you. Let them wonder how you glow without them. Let them realize that your silence speaks volumes their ears were never trained to hear. Remember these words. I am not afraid to be alone because solitude is where I meet my strength. Every time you choose peace over people, you elevate. Every time you protect your energy, you expand. You become a mirror of power, not pain. You become a reminder that calm is the new beautiful, that mystery is the new magnetism, that not everyone deserves front row seats to your story. And to those who took your kindness for weakness, understand this. A soft heart doesn't mean a weak spirit. The lion can rest and still be king. You can be gentle and still be untouchable. You can walk away quietly and still be remembered loudly. Never forget, your silence can be the loudest roar in the room. So stand tall, adjust your crown, protect your peace as if it were your kingdom. Don't let temporary people drain your eternal energy. You are not here to chase. You are here to attract. You are not here to beg. You are here to bloom. And you are not here to please. You are here to rise. Life will test you. People will misunderstand you. But the peace that comes from knowing your worth will keep you unshaken. The world will try to tempt you with noise, but the wise one always chooses calm. Because the loudest voice in the room is never the strongest. The calmest one is... Remember, you are allowed to be both a masterpiece and a work in progress. You can glow and still grow. You can rest and still rise. You can walk away and still win. Don't trade your crown for company. Don't trade your peace for presence. Don't trade your dignity for attention. You are not ordinary. You are royal. Protect your energy like royalty, because your peace is not up for sale. And when people ask why you became distant, tell them this: I didn't distance myself to disappear. I distanced myself to discover who I am without the noise. Let your silence become your statement. Let your peace become your revenge. Let your calm become your power. Because one day when they realize you no longer react, no longer chase, no longer explain, they'll finally understand that you didn't lose your energy, you reclaimed it. And that, my friend, is the kind of power no one can steal, the kind that comes from within, quiet, unbothered, and unstoppable.